When I first met Emma, I thought I'd finally found peace. She had this calm, centered energy, nothing loud or dramatic about her. We met at a friend's barbecue, one of those summer evenings where the air smells like grilled corn and someone's Bluetooth speaker keeps cutting out. She laughed at my dumb joke about undercooked chicken, and that was it. We talked until midnight. She wasn't like the women I dated before. Emma listened, really listened. I'd talk about work stress, my family, the goals I had for the next 5 years, and she'd look at me like she actually cared. After a string of messy breakups and women who thrived on chaos, that was refreshing. 3 months in, I was in deep. We weren't living together yet, but I'd spend half the week at her place. Her apartment always smelled like lavender candles and coffee. She'd wear my t-shirts around the house barefoot, humming while she cooked. It felt like home in a way I hadn't felt in years. Then one night, about 6 months into dating, she told me she was pregnant. We were sitting on her couch watching Netflix, and she just blurted it out. "I took a test this morning," she said quietly, her hands trembling slightly. "I'm pregnant." My mind went blank for a second. I wasn't expecting that conversation. Not yet, anyway. But after the initial shock faded, I found myself smiling. "Okay," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "That's big news, but we'll figure it out." Together, she looked at me, eyes wet, but she didn't smile back. That should have been my first clue that something wasn't right. The next few days were tense. She kept avoiding the topic, saying she needed time to think. I didn't push. I figured she was just scared, and I wanted to give her space. But that space turned into silence. Calls went unanswered. Texts took hours to get a response. And when she finally did reply, it was always vague. Then came the text. I remember the exact moment it came through. I was at work, on my lunch break, scrolling through emails. My phone buzzed. It was from her. "I'm keeping the baby, but I'm putting my ex's name on the birth certificate. It's easier just like that. No explanation, no context." I reread it 5, maybe 6 times, thinking I must have misunderstood. I called her. No answer. I texted back. "What do you mean it's easier? We need to talk about this." Nothing. I sat there, phone in my hand, heart pounding. Every logical thought in my head collided with this cold, sharp disbelief. Her ex? The guy she said was ancient history? The same man she told me had been controlling and manipulative? I'd been ready to step up, to be there, and she just erased me with one text. That night, I went over to her apartment. She didn't answer the door. I could see her lights were off. I waited in my car for almost an hour before finally driving home. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, replaying everything in my head. The next morning, she finally responded, greater than, "Please don't make this harder. It's just easier this way. You wouldn't understand." That sentence broke something in me. I'd been patient, understanding, supportive. I'd done everything right, and she was treating me like a footnote. So I stopped begging for answers. Instead, I started thinking clearly, coldly. First thing I did was pull up the lease agreement for the apartment we'd been about to sign together. We'd already paid the deposit, but it was in my name. I emailed the landlord, canceled the lease, and forfeited the deposit. I didn't care. The thought of moving in with her now made me sick. Then I looked at her text again, the part about her ex. I knew who he was, Mark. She'd mentioned him before, mostly in stories that painted him as a toxic, jealous man she was glad to be free from. But if she was really putting his name on the certificate, then he deserved to know, didn't he? So I forwarded him her text. Just that one line, no commentary, no explanation. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Then came another call, this time from a different number. Still didn't answer. Then a text popped up. Greater than, "Who the hell is this? And why are you texting me this?" I smiled to myself and ignored it. Instead, I went online and ordered a "Congratulations on Fatherhood" gift basket, baby blanket, plush teddy bear, chocolate cigars, the works. Had it delivered to his house with a card that read, "Greater than asterisk, from one man to another, congratulations on your growing family." Asterisk petty? Maybe. But it felt justified. The following day around noon, my phone rang again. This time the voice on the other end wasn't Mark. It was a woman. "Is this Daniel?" she asked, her tone sharp and icy. "Yes," I said cautiously. "This is Jessica." Mark's wife. I froze. Wife? She wasn't just his ex. He was married? She didn't give me time to process. "I just received a very strange delivery," she continued. "A gift basket congratulating my husband on becoming a father, with a message from you. Care to explain?" Her voice had that edge, the kind that comes from someone barely holding their rage together. I took a breath. "I think you should probably talk to your husband," I said evenly. "Or maybe ask Emma. She can fill in the blanks better than I can." There was a long silence on the line. I could almost hear her jaw tighten. Then she hung up. I sat there in my office, staring at the blank wall. Part of me felt vindicated. Another part of me, honestly, just felt empty. That evening, all hell broke loose. Emma called me, crying, shouting, begging me to answer. I didn't pick up the first few times. When I finally did, she was in full meltdown mode. "How could you do that?" she screamed through sobs. "You ruined everything." I stayed calm. "I didn't ruin anything, Emma. You did that when you lied." "It wasn't like that," she cried. "You don't understand. He's dangerous, and I was trying to protect us." "By pretending your ex was the father?" I asked. "By cutting me out completely? That's your version of protecting?" She went silent for a few seconds, and then her voice cracked. "I just needed time to figure things out. You shouldn't have involved them." "I didn't involve anyone," I said. "I just shared the truth." She started sobbing harder. "You don't get it. His wife didn't know about us. He said it was over, but she's pregnant too. And now," she broke off, her breathing ragged. "Now everything's falling apart." That's when I realized the scale of the mess she created. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd entangled me in a web of deceit that involved a married man and his unsuspecting wife. And she expected me to stay quiet. I remember staring out my window that night, city lights flickering in the distance, thinking about how quickly love can turn into something unrecognizable. Just 3 weeks earlier, we'd been planning baby names, talking about painting a nursery. Now she was crying on the phone, begging me to please not tell anyone else. But the damage was already done. Mark's wife started posting cryptic stories on social media that same night. Quotes about betrayal, broken trust, lies. It didn't take a detective to piece things together. By morning, Emma's world was on fire. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Friends unfollowed her. Mutual acquaintances started messaging me, asking if it was true. I didn't respond. I just deleted her number. But she didn't stop. She showed up at my apartment the next evening, eyes red, makeup smeared, holding a crumpled piece of paper in her hand. "Please," she said, voice trembling. "Can I come in?" I should have shut the door. I should have told her I was done. But something in me, maybe morbid curiosity, let her in. She sat on the couch, shaking. "He's threatening me," she whispered. "He says he'll tell everyone I lied, that I'll lose everything." I folded my arms. "You already lost me." "That's enough." Tears spilled down her face. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought I was doing the right thing." I looked at her, really looked at her. The same woman I'd once imagined a future with, now a stranger tangled in lies. "You want it easy," I said quietly. "This is what easy looks like." She broke down completely after that, and for the first time I didn't reach out to comfort her. I just stood there and watched the person I used to love realize the consequences of her choices. That night was the last time I saw her in person, but it wasn't the end, because the next morning my phone rang again, and this time the voice on the other end wasn't Emma's or even Mark's wife's. It was Mark himself, and the first thing he said was, "We need to talk." Now, when I heard his voice, I knew immediately who it was. Low, cold, and steady. The kind of tone that tells you the person on the other end isn't calling to talk things through. "Mark," I said flatly. "You think you're funny, huh?" He snapped. "Sending my wife that crap? Forwarding texts you don't even understand?" I leaned back in my chair, forcing calm into my voice. I didn't send anything that wasn't true. You had no right, he barked. You don't know the first thing about what's going on between me and Emma. I almost laughed. You mean the woman who told me you were her abusive ex? The same woman who said you were out of her life for good? Yeah, Mark, I know plenty. There was a pause, then quieter. You're making a mistake getting involved in this. I exhaled slowly. I was involved, Mark, until I wasn't. She involved me the second she lied. I'm out now. Whatever you two have going on, it's not my problem anymore. He hesitated again. Then, in a voice that had lost its edge, he muttered, You think this doesn't mess up my life? My wife's pregnant, and now she thinks I've been cheating again because of you. Because of me? I said, half laughing. You were sleeping with Emma while married. You lied to both of us. You don't get to play the victim here. He didn't reply. Just heavy breathing, then the call disconnected. I sat there for a while, phone still in my hand, feeling the weight of everything crash down. This wasn't a story of one person's betrayal anymore. It was a full-blown disaster zone of secrets, lies, and collateral damage. For a few days, I tried to move on. I threw myself into work, avoided social media, stopped checking my messages. But trouble has a way of finding you when you least want it. 3 days later, I came home to find an envelope taped to my apartment door. No return address, just my name. Inside was a printed ultrasound photo and a note that said, This is your child whether you like it or not. My chest went cold. I knew that handwriting. It was Emma's. I called her immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted her, What is this? Why are you doing this? No reply. That night I couldn't sleep. Every possibility tore through my head. Was she lying again? Was the baby actually mine? Or was she trying to manipulate both of us at once? By morning, I decided to stop guessing. I needed answers. Real ones. So I drove to her place. The blinds were closed, lights off, but her car was parked out front. I knocked. No answer. I waited. Knocked again. Still nothing. Just as I turned to leave, the door creaked open an inch. She looked destroyed, hair messy, eyes swollen, face pale. Daniel, she whispered, please don't yell. I'm not here to yell, I said. I'm here because I need the truth. Is the baby mine? Her lips trembled. I don't know. That sentence hit harder than any insult could. I stepped inside, shutting the door behind me. You don't know? You told me you hadn't seen him in months before we started dating. She sat down, staring at the floor. I lied. We hooked up once. It was before I knew what I wanted. Before you knew what you wanted? I repeated bitterly. You played both of us, Emma. She looked up at me, tears pooling. I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought he'd never find out. I thought I could keep everything separate. And when the pregnancy test came back positive, you just picked whichever man was easier, right? Her silence was my answer. I felt something shift inside me. That quiet moment when anger stops being loud and becomes cold. Okay, I said finally, then do what you want. Put whoever's name you want on that certificate. Just don't ever contact me again. She reached for my arm, crying harder. Daniel, please. You're the only one who's been kind to me through all this. I made a mistake. I was scared. I pulled my arm away. You weren't scared, Emma. You were selfish, and then I walked out. That was supposed to be the end. But life doesn't let you walk away clean from people like that. A week later, my phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Jessica, Mark's wife. Greater than, I think you deserve to know what's really going on. She asked to meet in person. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a quiet coffee shop downtown. She was composed, poised, but her eyes carried exhaustion. I spoke to Emma, she began. She's saying a lot of things. That you're the real father, that Mark pressured her into lying. I sighed. That sounds like Emma. Jessica nodded slowly. I believe part of it. Mark's been distant for months. But the rest? She hesitated. I don't know who to believe anymore. We sat in silence for a bit. Finally, she leaned forward and said, I'm not asking you for anything. I just wanted to tell you that whatever she's doing, she's unraveling, and she's dragging everyone down with her. She stood to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I think you're the only one who tried to do the right thing. That stuck with me. I didn't hear from Emma for almost 2 months after that. Then one morning I got a text out of nowhere. Greater than, "Can we talk? I need your help." I stared at it for a long time before replying. About what? It's not about the baby. Please, just one conversation against all logic, I agreed. We met at a park near her place. She looked thinner, drained, and oddly peaceful. "I told the truth," she said softly. "About everything. Mark knows. His wife knows. Everyone knows." I just nodded, not sure what to say. She smiled weakly. "They're divorcing. He's moving out. She said she'll never forgive him. And me? I'm just trying to start over." "Good," I said quietly. "That's probably best for everyone." Then she reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "These are the paternity results," she said. "I wanted you to have them." My heart started pounding again. I opened the envelope with trembling hands. The words were simple, clinical, absolute. Probability of paternity, 0%. I wasn't the father. I felt my whole body loosen, like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't even realize had become part of me. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything. You didn't deserve what I did." I didn't respond right away. For a long time, I just watched the trees sway in the wind, thinking about how easily one person's lies can twist multiple lives into chaos. Finally, I said, "You should tell the truth to yourself before you try to start over. Otherwise, it'll just happen again." She nodded, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. That was the last time we ever spoke. Months passed. Life slowly stabilized again. I moved to a new apartment, took on new projects at work, started seeing someone casually. Not serious, just easy, honest, uncomplicated. Then one afternoon, while cleaning old files on my phone, I stumbled across the original text she'd sent. Greater than, "I'm keeping the baby, but I'm putting my ex's name on the birth certificate. It's easier." I read it again, and for the first time, it didn't sting. It just felt distant, like something that had happened to someone else. Because the truth was, that version of me, the one who would have bent over backward to fix her mess, to make sense of lies that never made sense, was gone. That whole ordeal taught me something I never learned from any heartbreak before. Sometimes closure doesn't come with an apology, or justice, or even understanding. Sometimes closure is just the day you stop caring about the person who once had the power to break you. A few weeks later, I heard from a mutual friend that Emma had moved out of the city. She'd had the baby, was living with her mother, and had apparently cut all contact with Mark. Part of me hoped she found peace, but another part of me knew she probably hadn't, because peace doesn't come from running away. It comes from taking responsibility. As for me, I was finally learning what peace really felt like. One evening, while sitting on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in golden red, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Greater than, "Hey, it's Jessica. Just wanted you to know. I had the baby. We're doing great. Thank you for not stooping to their level." I smiled, typed back, "Congratulations. You deserve better." She replied with a single heart emoji, and that was it. The chapter closed. No dramatic ending, no revenge, no grand redemption. Just quiet acceptance that sometimes the people you think are meant to stay in your life are really just there to teach you boundaries you didn't know you needed. Emma's betrayal didn't destroy me. It refined me. It showed me the difference between love that grows you and love that drains you. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You can forgive someone without reopening the door they slammed in your face. So when I look back at that text, the one that started it all, I don't feel anger anymore, just clarity, because easier never means better. And some people don't deserve your heartbreak, they deserve your silence.